There is a book so dangerous that when it was first published, it was reportedly kept hidden under the pillows of some of the most powerful people on earth, and locked away from the general public by those same people who feared what would happen if ordinary men and women ever got their hands on it. That book is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And today, we are going to go through every single one of those laws, all 48, with the depth, the context, and the psychological precision they deserve. But before we open the first law, you need to understand where this book comes from, because the 48 Laws of Power did not emerge from thin air. It is the product of Robert Greene spending years studying the most powerful, most feared, and most influential figures in all of recorded human history. From the courts of Renaissance Italy to the battlefields of ancient China, from the salons of Versailles to the boardrooms of modern corporations. He studied their strategies, their deceptions, their brilliance, and their ruthlessness. And he distilled everything he found into 48 timeless laws that govern how power actually works in the real world. And layered beneath Greene's framework is the shadow of one man whose fingerprints are on virtually every law in this book. Niccolo, Machiavelli, the 15th century Florentine diplomat who looked at the world of power not as it should be, but as it actually is, who wrote without apology about manipulation, strategy, fear, and the calculated use of human psychology to gain and maintain control. Machiavelli did not invent these laws, but he was the first to articulate them with brutal, unflinching honesty. And Greene built upon that foundation with centuries of additional evidence. What you are about to receive is not a surface-level summary. This is a deep, psychological excavation. We are going to move through all 48 laws, group by group, and for each one we are going to break down not just what the law says, but why it works, how it has been used throughout history, and how it applies to your life right now. Today, in every social, professional, and personal arena you operate in. This is dark psychology. This is the hidden architecture of human power. And it begins now. Law 1. Never outshine the master. This is where Greene opens, and it is no accident. Of all the ways that talented, ambitious people destroy their own careers and relationships, this is perhaps the most common and the most devastating. The law is simple. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. Never display your talent so aggressively that you make your superiors feel threatened, insecure, or overshadowed. This sounds counterintuitive. We are taught from childhood that the way to succeed is to perform at the highest level possible, to show what we can do, to be brilliant, to stand out. But Machiavelli understood something about human nature that our educational systems deliberately ignore. The people above you in any hierarchy are not neutral observers of your talent. They are invested in maintaining their position. And the moment your brilliance begins to cast a shadow over theirs, they will not celebrate you. They will eliminate you. History is full of examples. Greene tells the story of Nicolas Foucault, the finance minister of King Louis XIV of France, who threw the most spectacular party in French history to impress the king, and was arrested. 3 weeks later, his crime was not corruption. His crime was making the king feel small by comparison. The law is not telling you to be mediocre. It is telling you to be strategic. Make your superior feel that any success you achieve is a reflection of their wisdom, their leadership, their vision. Let them take credit where it serves your long-term position. Your time to outshine will come, but only when you are the master. LAW 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. This law shocks people when they first encounter it, but the psychology behind it is airtight. Friends, Greene argues, are actually more dangerous than enemies in positions of power. Because friends expect preferential treatment, become resentful when they don't receive it, and are blinded by familiarity to your actual needs and strategic position. Your enemies, on the other hand, have everything to prove. Hire a former enemy. Give them an opportunity they never expected, and they will work harder than any friend ever would, simply to demonstrate their loyalty and justify the trust you extended. This is not cynicism. This is the psychology of incentive, and power runs on incentive. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. Keep people off balance and in the dark. Never reveal the purpose behind your actions. If people don't know what you're after, they cannot prepare a defense. Greene teaches that the most powerful players in any game are those whose true motivations remain hidden, who appear to be moving in one direction while preparing to strike from another entirely. Machiavelli was the master of this principle. In Indifference, he described how a ruler must be both lion and fox. The lion to frighten the wolves, and the fox to recognize the traps. The fox operates through concealment, through misdirection, through the careful management of appearances. You do not lie directly. You simply never confirm the truth of your intentions until the moment it serves you. This law operates in every domain of life. In business negotiations, revealing your true bottom line destroys your leverage. In romantic dynamics, showing your hand too early collapses the tension that creates attraction. In competitive environments, broadcasting your strategy hands your opponents the blueprint to defeat you. Conceal your intention. Let people project onto you what they want to see, and then move in the direction that serves your actual goals. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Power speaks in few words. The more you say, the more common you appear, and the more opportunity you give others to find weakness, contradiction, or vulnerability in your words. When you say less than necessary, you create a powerful impression of depth and mystery. People are unsettled by what they cannot fully grasp, and they will fill the silence with their own fears and projections, which almost always work in your favor. Greene points to Louis XIV, who was famous for responding to requests and complex political situations with a single devastating line, "I shall see, nothing more." That ambiguity gave him complete control. No one could predict what he would do. No one could prepare for it. No one could manipulate him through his words, because he had given them almost nothing to work with. This connects directly to what we discussed in our previous video about building a dangerous aura. Silence is not a void. Silence is a weapon, and the most powerful communicators in history have always been those who chose their words as carefully as a surgeon selects a blade. Speak less. Mean more. Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built, and when it crumbles, everything built on top of it crumbles too. Greene teaches that reputation must be managed with the same strategic care and deliberate precision that a military general applies to the defense of a fortress. Your reputation precedes you into every room. It speaks before you open your mouth. It influences how people receive your words, how they interpret your actions, how much weight they give your presence. A powerful reputation can make ordinary actions appear extraordinary. A damaged reputation makes extraordinary actions appear suspicious. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that a prince who is known to be consistent, formidable, and uncompromising in his standards will face far fewer challenges than one who is perceived as weak or unpredictable, because potential enemies will calculate the cost of opposition and find it too high. Guard your reputation proactively Do not wait until it is under attack to defend it. The moment you detect a threat, a whisper, a rumor, a rival beginning to undermine your standing, move decisively. Destroy the threat at the root before it has the chance to grow. LAW 6. Court attention at all costs. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. In a world of noise and infinite competition for attention, the person who goes unnoticed is the person who goes without power. Greene teaches that you must actively manage your public presence, create an image that is larger than life, that captures the imagination, that makes people stop and look. This does not mean reckless self-promotion. It means deliberate theatricality, the understanding that life in the social world is a kind of theater, and those who refuse to perform are simply ignored, while those who master the performance command the stage. Cleopatra did not simply meet Mark Antony. She staged an entrance on a golden barge with silk sails and perfumed twins that became one of the most talked about moments in the ancient world. She understood that the memory people carry of you is shaped by the impression you engineer, not simply the reality you inhabit. Create moments. Create images. Court attention. Because attention is the currency of power, and those who accumulate it rule. Law number 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Use the wisdom, knowledge, and labor of other people to further your own cause, while maintaining the appearance of being the sole architect of your success. This law sounds brutal on the surface, but its deeper message is about efficiency and strategic intelligence. The most powerful people in history did not succeed by doing everything themselves. They succeeded by identifying the right people, extracting the right value, and positioning themselves at the center of the result. Greene is not advocating theft of credit in petty, personal ways. He's identifying a pattern that the powerful have always understood. The person at the top of any enterprise is remembered, not the hands that built it. Julius Caesar did not dig trenches. Napoleon did not forge steel, they directed. They strategized. They commanded. The law also carries a warning. Be vigilant about others. Applying this law to you, never let someone else position themselves to claim the value of your work. Understand always where your contribution sits in the larger architecture and protect your credit accordingly. LAW 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if you have to. When you force your opponent to come to you, you abandon your own plans and enter their territory. But when you force them to come to you, when you create the conditions that draw them in your direction, you are always operating from a position of strength. This law is about controlling the field of engagement. The person who always goes to others, who is always available, who is always accommodating that person is at a permanent disadvantage. They are reactive. They are operating inside someone else's frame. But the person who makes others come to them through the strategic use of scarcity, through the offering of something deeply desired, through the cultivation of an aura that pulls people in, person controls the dynamic before the first word is spoken. Patience is the engine of this law. You must be willing to wait, to hold your position, to resist the anxiety of inaction, and trust that the right beat set in the right place will draw exactly what you need on your timeline, not theirs. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Any fool can win an argument. But arguments, even when won decisively, almost always leave behind resentment, wounded pride, and an opponent more committed than ever to proving you wrong. Greene teaches that the truly powerful person never needs to argue because they demonstrate through action what they could never fully establish through words. Demonstrate, do not debate. Show people rather than telling them. When your results speak with undeniable clarity, no argument is necessary and no counter-argument is possible. This law carries a powerful psychological insight. People rarely change their minds because of logic. They change their minds because of evidence they can see, feel, and cannot explain away. Words can be dismissed. Results cannot. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. This law is perhaps the most ruthless in the entire book and the most psychologically accurate. Greene argues that emotional states, attitudes, and even patterns of luck are contagious. Spend enough time around people who are chronically unhappy, perpetually unlucky, or terminally negative, and those conditions will begin to transfer to you. This is not mysticism. It is psychology. The people around you shape your habits of thought, your expectations, your emotional baseline, and the social circles through which opportunities either arrive or are blocked. The powerful are deliberate about their associations. They understand that proximity is influence, and they choose their inner circle not just on the basis of affection, but on the basis of what each person in that circle contributes to the collective trajectory. This law does not ask you to be heartless. It asks you to be strategic. Compassion has its place, but your intimate circle, your daily environment, your primary associations must be populated by people whose energy, ambition, and psychological health elevate you rather than drain you. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you are relied upon, the more freedom you actually have, because those who depend on you cannot afford to move against you. Cultivate skills, knowledge, and relationships that make you indispensable. The moment you are replaceable, your power begins to erode. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. One sincere, perfectly timed act of honesty or generosity can lower the defenses of even the most suspicious opponent. Greene teaches that a single genuine gesture offered at the right moment with the right emotional calibration creates a powerful psychological opening. People who have been given something real tend to relax their guard, and a relaxed guard is an open door. This is not about manipulation through fakery. The honesty and generosity must be real. What makes it strategic is the timing and the context, understanding when such a gesture will have maximum impact and using that impact to serve your larger objective. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to self-interest, never to mercy or gratitude. If you need something from a powerful person, do not appeal to their compassion. Do not remind them of past favors you have done for them. These appeals make them feel burdened, guilty, or manipulated, and they will find ways to avoid you. Instead, show them clearly and specifically what they stand to gain by helping you. Frame your request entirely in terms of their benefit. Make them feel that helping you is the most advantageous move they can make, and watch how quickly resistance dissolves. Machiavelli understood this principle at the core of his political philosophy. People act in their own self always. The leader who aligns their requests with the self-interest of those they need is the leader who gets what they need. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Knowledge about your rivals, your allies, and your opponents is power in its most concentrated form. Greene teaches that you must constantly gather intelligence, not through obvious surveillance, but through the art of social intelligence. Ask indirect questions, listen more than you speak. Create environments where people feel comfortable revealing their true thoughts, fears, and motivations. The person who knows what others want, fear, and value holds extraordinary leverage. And the most effective intelligence is gathered not in formal settings, but in casual, unguarded conversation where people forget they are being read. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. If you leave a wounded opponent standing, they will recover, regroup, and return more motivated than ever by the hunger for revenge. Greene's law is stark. A half victory is often more dangerous than no victory at all. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Too much circulation makes the price of anything drop. The more you are seen, the more ordinary you become. Withdraw occasionally. Make yourself scarce, and you will find that your value in others' perception increases dramatically in your absence. This is the psychology of scarcity applied to human presence. What is rare is precious. What is always available is taken for granted. The powerful understand when to appear and when to disappear, and they use that rhythm deliberately to maintain the magnetic pull of their presence. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Humans are creatures of habit and comfort. They crave predictability because predictability feels safe. And when you give people the predictability they crave, you hand them a tool with which to manage and manipulate you. Cultivate strategic unpredictability. Vary your responses. Break your patterns deliberately. Keep people slightly off balance, never certain of what you will do next. This uncertainty creates a powerful psychological dynamic in which your presence demands heightened attention and commands a level of caution that predictable people never receive. Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Power requires circulation. It requires relationships, information, and the constant pulse of social intelligence. Leaders who isolate themselves cut themselves off from the feedback, the intelligence, and the human dynamics that keep power alive. A fortress protects you from enemies, but it also prevents you from knowing what your enemies are doing. The truly powerful remain connected, visible, engaged, aware, while maintaining the internal composure that isolation is sometimes mistakenly pursued to achieve. Law 19. Know we are dealing with do not offend the wrong person. Not all opponents respond to the same strategies. Some people, when wounded, will let it go. Others will dedicate their entire existence to destroying you. Greene warns that the most catastrophic mistake in the arena of power is misjudging the character of those you challenge. Study people before engaging them. Understand their history, their temperament, their capacity for retaliation. Some enemies cost more than any victory over them is worth. The strategic player knows when to fight and when to simply redirect their energy elsewhere. Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. The moment you openly commit to one side, one person, or one faction, you surrender your independence. Greene teaches that the truly powerful remain above the fray, sought after by all sides, committed to none. When everyone wants your allegiance and no one is certain they have it, your value is at its maximum. This does not mean being untrustworthy in personal relationships. It means understanding that in the arena of power, commitment is leverage, and giving it away freely collapses your negotiating position entirely. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker seem dumber than your mark. No one moves against someone they consider beneath them. If you make yourself appear less intelligent, less capable, less aware than you actually are, you lower the defenses of your opponents, who become careless in their confidence and reveal more than they intend. This is the strategy of the fox dressed as a rabbit. The most dangerous intelligence is hidden intelligence. The person who appears to know nothing often knows everything, and uses that gap between perception and reality to devastating effect. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. When you are weaker, surrender. Do not fight a battle you cannot win. Retreat is not defeat, it is strategy. By surrendering when the odds are against you, you buy time, preserve your resources, and wait for the moment when the balance shifts. History is full of generals and leaders who lost everything by refusing to retreat when retreat was the intelligent choice. Pride kills more careers and kingdoms than incompetence ever could. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. Spread thin. You are vulnerable everywhere. Concentrate it. You are invincible in one place. Greene teaches that true power comes from focus, from directing all of your resources, energy, attention, and capability toward a single point until that point breaks. The diluted effort produces mediocre results across many fronts. The concentrated effort produces decisive results where it matters most. In business, in relationships, in conflict, concentration is the principle that turns limited resources into an overwhelming force. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. The perfect courtier thrives in a world where everything revolves around power and political dynamics, and does so by mastering a set of social graces so refined and so deliberate that they appear completely natural. Greene describes the courtier as someone who flatters indirectly, praises sincerely, never criticizes superiors openly, and always appears to be acting in the interests of others while carefully advancing their own position. This law is essentially a master class in social intelligence. It demands the ability to read rooms, read people, and navigate complex social hierarchies with the dexterity of a chess grandmaster. Always several moves ahead, always appearing effortless. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Do not accept the roles that society assigns you. Recreate yourself. Forge a new identity that commands attention and never bores. Greene points to Napoleon, who crafted an image so deliberately, so theatrically, so consistently that he became his own myth. While he was still alive, the person who allows others to define them is always at a disadvantage. But the person who defines themselves, who constructs their own narrative, their own image, their own mythology, operates from a position of creative control that others can never fully penetrate or undermine. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. Power requires the appearance of cleanliness. The powerful find ways to accomplish their goals, including unpleasant ones, while maintaining the public image of virtue, fairness, and reasonableness. They use intermediaries. They use scapegoats. They arrange circumstances so that the dirty work is done by hands other than their own. This law is cold, but it describes a pattern so universal in the history of power that ignoring it is simply naive. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. People have a desperate need to believe in something larger than themselves. They hunger for meaning, for community, for a vision that transcends the mundane. Greene teaches that those who offer a compelling vision wrapped in mystery, charged with promise, and positioned as exclusive can command extraordinary loyalty. The most powerful leaders in history have always been those who gave their followers not just direction, but a sense of participation in something historic and extraordinary. Law 28. Interaction with boldness. Timidity is more dangerous than aggression. The hesitant, half-committed action breeds resistance and contempt because it signals uncertainty, and uncertainty invites challenge. Greene teaches that when you commit to a course of action, you must commit completely, boldly, without visible hesitation. Boldness creates its own momentum. It impresses, intimidates, and sweeps people along before they have time to organize resistance. The bold move that fails is recovered from far more easily than the timid non-move that hands your opponent the initiative. Lions do not hesitate at the moment of the strike. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. The ending is everything. Most people plan their beginning and their middle. They think about how to start and how to navigate, but they fail to think clearly and completely about where they are going and what they are trying to achieve at the conclusion. Greene warns that without clarity about the end, you will be swept along by circumstance and other people's agendas. Plan all the way to the final outcome. Anticipate every obstacle. Prepare for every contingency. And when you move with the full architecture of your plan already in place. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Conceal the effort behind your achievements. When people see how hard you work, they begin to wonder if the result was worth it, and they see a vulnerability in the struggle. But when your accomplishments appear effortless, they create an aura of natural superiority that is psychologically impossible to fully rationalize. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of sprezzatura, the Italian concept of making difficult things appear easy. The master performer never lets the audience see the rehearsal. They see only the performance, and the performance appears inevitable. Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. The best deceptions are those where you allow the other person to believe they are making a free choice, while every option available to them leads to the outcome you have already decided on. Control the frame. Design the choices and let people feel the comfort of their own agency while moving inevitably in your direction. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. The truth is often harsh, dull, and disappointing. The person who can offer a compelling alternative, a vision, a fantasy, a narrative of transformation will always have followers that the truth teller cannot attract. Greene teaches that power often lies not in reality, but in the story people most desperately want to believe. This law is not about lying. It is about understanding that human beings are driven as much by imagination and desire as by rational calculation. The leader who speaks to what people dream of, who articulates their hopes, their vision of themselves, their desired future, commands a loyalty that logic alone can never produce. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Everyone has a weakness, a pressure point, a deep need, an insecurity, a passion that can be found and used. Greene teaches that the strategically intelligent person takes the time to identify these pressure points in the people around them, not necessarily to exploit them cruelly, but to understand what motivates, what moves, and what can be used as leverage when necessary. Watch for overconfidence. Watch for uncontrollable emotion. Watch for the deep need for validation. These are the thumbscrews, and once identified, they provide extraordinary insight into how a person can be moved. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be. Treat it like one. The way you carry yourself determines how others treat you. If you move through the world as though you are already at the level you aspire to reach, if you carry the confidence, the bearing, and the self-regard of someone who has already arrived, the world will begin to treat you accordingly. This is not arrogance. It is the psychology of self-presentation. The person who acts as though they deserve to be in the room almost always ends up belonging in the room. Law 35. Master the art of timing. Never appear to be in a hurry. Hurriedness reveals a lack of control over yourself and your environment. The powerful move at their own pace. They understand that timing is everything, that the right action at the wrong moment can be as catastrophic as the wrong action entirely. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Acknowledging a petty problem gives it power. When you show that something has gotten under your skin, that a rival's slight, a frustration, a failure has moved you, you give it a reality it would not otherwise have. Greene teaches that the most powerful response to things you cannot control or obtain is a deliberate, aristocratic indifference ignora, morvion. Let the opponent's attack fall into silence and watch it shrivel without the oxygen of your reaction. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. Striking imagery and grand symbolic gestures create a more powerful impression than words ever can. The leader who stages their power, who creates moments of theater, of ceremony, of visual impact, speaks to the deeper, more emotional parts of the human brain that words rarely reach. History's most powerful figures were masters of spectacle. They understood that people are moved by what they see and feel, and they orchestrated those visual and emotional experiences with the deliberateness of master directors. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. If you flaunt your unconventional ideas too openly, people who cannot understand them will feel threatened and will move against you. Greene teaches that you must blend your public behavior with the norms of your environment while keeping your true thinking private. Your strategies concealed, your real intentions known only to yourself. The revolutionary who survives is the one who appears ordinary until the moment of decisive action. The philosopher who thrives is the one who knows when to speak and when to stay silent. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Anger and emotion are strategic vulnerabilities. Greene teaches that you can provoke your opponents into emotional reactions, into rashness, into overextension, into revealing their hand by stirring the waters of their composure. Meanwhile, you remain calm, calculating, watching their emotion create the opening you need. Your control over your own emotional states is a weapon. So is your ability to disturb the emotional state of others. These two sides of the same psychological coin define some of the most devastating strategic advantages in any competitive arena. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. What is offered for free comes with hidden costs, obligations, psychological debts, manipulations. Greene teaches that you must pay your own way when you accept gifts, favors, or assistance without reciprocation. You surrender a portion of your independence. You become subtly indebted, subtly controllable. The person who pays for what they receive maintains their freedom. They owe no one. They can make decisions based on their own interests without the weight of obligation distorting their judgment. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. If you succeed a great predecessor, you will always be measured against their shadow, and you will almost always be found wanting. Greene advises either establishing yourself somewhere entirely new, or so dramatically redefining what came before that comparison becomes impossible. Create your own standard, build your own mythology. Do not attempt to equal or surpass what came before. Establish a completely new category in which you are, by definition, the greatest who has ever existed. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Trouble in any group almost always traces back to a single source, one person whose influence, energy, or antagonism is driving the dysfunction. Greene teaches that the strategic response is not to address the group, it is to isolate and neutralize the individual at the center. Remove the shepherd, and the flock loses its direction. Identify the source, move decisively against it, and watch the complex problem dissolve without the organizing intelligence that was sustaining it. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Coercion creates resistance. But when you win over the hearts and minds of the people around you, when they genuinely believe in what you are doing, when they feel emotionally invested in your success, they become allies of extraordinary power. They work for you, not because they must, but because they want to. And that motivation produces a quality of effort and loyalty that coercion can never match. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mere effect. Mirroring your opponent's moves, doing exactly what they do, reflecting their behavior back at them, can be psychologically destabilizing in ways that direct confrontation never achieves. It forces them to see their own strategy from the outside. It neutralizes their advantage. And it often provokes exactly the kind of frustrated, irrational response that creates your opening. The mirror effect is also one of the most powerful tools of seduction and rapport building. When you reflect someone's values, their language, their manner, they feel seen, understood, and deeply connected to you in ways they cannot fully articulate. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Too much change too fast creates fear. It provokes resistance from those who have something invested in the existing order, and even from those who abstractly support the vision but cannot emotionally process the pace of its implementation. Greene teaches that the truly powerful reformer understands the psychology of change. They preach transformation while honoring enough of the existing structure to maintain the comfort and security of those whose cooperation they need. Revolution in substance, evolution in appearance. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Appearing too perfect inspires not admiration, but envy. And envy is one of the most dangerous forces you will ever face. People who envy you do not merely want what you have. They want you to not have it. They will work against you in ways that are subtle, persistent, and deeply difficult to defend against. Greene advises the cultivation of strategic imperfection and made minor flaws deliberately. Show occasional vulnerability. Let people see enough humanity in you that admiration remains accessible and envy finds nowhere to take root. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for in victory. Learn when to stop. The moment of maximum danger is the moment of greatest success. When you have achieved your objective, the temptation to press further, to take advantage of the momentum, to accumulate more, to extend the victory is overwhelming, and it is often lethal. History is full of conquerors who destroyed themselves not through defeat, but through the inability to stop at the moment of victory. Know your mark, reach it, and stop. Consolidate what you have won before reaching for what comes next. Law 48. Assume formlessness. This is where Greene closes, and it is perhaps the most philosophically profound law of all 48. By taking a shape, by having a visible plan, a static position, a predictable form, you offer your opponent something to grasp, something to resist, something to counter. But by remaining fluid, adaptable, without fixed form like water, which takes the shape of whatever container holds it and cannot be struck effectively, you become impossible to pin down, impossible to predict, impossible to defeat through conventional means. The most enduring powers in history, whether in the form of people, institutions, or ideas, have survived precisely because of their capacity to transform, to change without losing their essential nature, to appear in different forms while remaining fundamentally the same force. This final law is not just a strategy, it is a philosophy of existence. It is Machiavelli and Greene converging on a truth that the greatest thinkers of every civilization have touched in different ways. That rigidity is the beginning of death, and adaptability is the engine of enduring power. You have now moved through all 48 laws of power, from the first principle of never outshining your master to the final wisdom of assuming formlessness. Together, these laws form a complete psychological architecture, a map of how power actually moves through human relationships, institutions, and history. But knowledge without application is nothing. These laws are not meant to be admired from a distance. They are meant to be studied, internalized, and applied carefully, strategically, and with full awareness of the ethical responsibility that comes with understanding how power actually works. The powerful do not just know these laws, they live with them. Every interaction, every decision, every moment of stillness, and every moment of action, filtered through the deep, disciplined understanding that power is not given. It is built law by law, decision by decision, day by day. This has been Mind of the Alpha, where we go deep so you can rise high. If this video shifted something in your thinking, if it gave you clarity, strategy, or simply a new lens through which to see the world, then you already know what to do. Subscribe. Share this with someone who is ready to understand power at its deepest level. Hit the notification bell, and we will see you in the next one. The game of power never stops. Make sure you never stop learning how to play it.